What's up, friends of good and evil? We're back! Me and all my monsters for another unboxing. A brand new one, of course. This time, the package came from the United States, but the knife's real origin is South Africa. That's where it was designed and built before making its way to the US, and from there, finally, to Lima, Peru. And there it is. No plastic wrap, no extra padding, nothing at all, just the knife resting inside the pouch. And honestly, that's enough. The pouch itself does the job perfectly. Let me pull it out now. That's it. Nothing else in the case. And here it is, the first time I'm holding it in my hands. My first impression? It's a heavy knife. Just the way I like them. I absolutely love the way it shines. It's got a satin finish, right? Because it's not fully reflective, just enough sheen to make it elegant without being flashy. Looking closer, the backspacer runs from a little beyond the halfway point of the handle all the way to the rear, stopping just short of the end. There's a lanyard hole near the butt of the knife, always a nice detail. Honestly, it looks and feels amazing. But let's check out what really matters, the action. This is one of those knives that has a solid, weighty build, the kind you feel instantly. The blade itself carries enough mass that when you deploy it, you really notice the momentum. Unlike lighter knives that fire out effortlessly, this one demands a bit more from your finger. The detent isn't overly stiff, but because of the blade's weight, you do need a bit of extra force to overcome that resistance. It immediately reminds me of the Re-8 Jack. That's the closest comparison I can think of. I'll put an image of it on screen now so you know which model I'm talking about. It's almost identical in size to the Re-8 Jack, actually. Same overall footprint and the same thick, heavy blade profile. This blade, as you can probably tell, is done in a Persian-style shape. You see how the tip curves upward? That's the defining feature of a Persian-style blade. Usually, you'll also find a belly relief near the edge right, here designed to make cutting more efficient. Without that, the curve would be too round, too extreme. But this hollowed section softens the arc, helping the blade glide more smoothly when slicing. It also features a fuller, which technically allows for a spidey flick, but I'll tell you right now, it's not easy. The blade is heavy, and even though I keep my nails fairly long for this kind of deployment, it still takes effort. It's not impossible, but clearly, this knife wasn't designed with reverse flicking in mind. It's not a fidget-friendly knife if that's what you're looking for. It's built as a flipper, plain and simple. The action works best when using the rear flipper tab, and that's how it should be operated for optimal performance. The blade steel is M390, which by now most of you probably know well. It's a premium steel extremely resistant to chipping and breakage. It holds an edge incredibly well, and although it's a bit tough to sharpen due to its hardness, it offers top-tier corrosion resistance. Here on the blade, we've got a stamped date, 13/2025. That's most likely the manufacturing date, though it doesn't specify the month. Now, that's odd. 13/2025? 13th of what? January, February, March, April? No clue. I'll probably have to ask André directly what it actually means. Or maybe it doesn't refer to the date at all. It might mean this is unit number 13, not the 13th of a month. That would make more sense, especially considering this knife is basically a custom piece. As I mentioned earlier, I've seen the US distributors carrying different versions of this model, but none with this fully satin finish front and back. The ones sold stateside have a different treatment on the titanium scales, not satin, more like a coated or blasted look. So when I saw this version, it immediately stood out. It caught my attention precisely because the entire knife has this consistent satin finish, which I personally love. Now, don't take my word as absolute this finish might eventually hit the US market. But as of the moment I'm editing this video, I can say with confidence, this particular version isn't available in the US yet. I've always been drawn to knives that have a satin finish across the entire build, and this one nails it. But beyond the finish, it's the design itself that really wins me over. It's seriously badass. Now let's take a look at the pocket clip. It has a completely unique design. I honestly can't recall seeing anything quite like it before. There's a notch or indentation here, and to be honest, I don't really see any functional purpose for it. It might be purely aesthetic. But what's really interesting is that the clip uses a rollerball mechanism. You might be able to spot it underneath. That's a cool detail. This is actually a really interesting and valuable detail, especially when it comes to daily carry. The rollerball on the pocket clip makes a huge difference. When you slide the knife into your jeans pocket, that little roller spins, reducing friction and preventing the clip from tearing up the fabric. If you've been carrying knives for a while, you know how common it is for certain clips to be so stiff or sharp-edged that they chew through your pockets over time. That's why some makers, like André, incorporate roller mechanisms to make insertion smoother and gentler on your clothing. It's a small upgrade, but a seriously practical one. Moving on to the backspacer, this is another feature that really caught my attention. It's been a while since I've seen one quite like this. It runs almost the full length of the handle super generous and includes a little lanyard hole that sticks out toward the back. I really like that. It not only adds utility, but also adds some weight to the rear end of the knife. Let's talk about balance now. And yep, there it is. Right under the pivot, the knife balances perfectly. That's probably why André went with such a long and solid backspacer. Like I mentioned earlier, this blade is massive and heavy, so the handle needs some serious counterweight to maintain a proper balance and give it a more neutral feel in hand. Looking closer at the hardware, the pivot screws appear to be Torx T10 on both sides, it seems. Yep, the pivot is definitely Torx T10. And without a doubt, this knife runs on bearings. You can feel it, the blade moves with a certain ease that's only possible when there are ball bearings inside. Now, the detent is still a bit stiff. Not excessively, but you can tell it hasn't fully broken in yet. That's totally normal. Over time, and by that, I mean just a couple of days of use, that initial resistance between the bearings and the titanium scales will start to smooth out. Once it does, you'll get the kind of fluid deployment you expect from a high-end knife like the ADV Brawler. Looking at the handle, we've got 3 Torx screws on each side, nothing too complicated. T10 again for the pivot, so disassembly should be straightforward. Now, let's check out the frame lock. There's a steel lock bar insert installed here, and I'm not sure if you can see it clearly on camera, but it's held in place by a small screw. That screw lets you replace the insert if needed. This kind of detail is something I really appreciate in custom or semi-custom knives. Over time, even with the best materials, wear can happen, especially if there's unexpected stress on the lock interface or if the detent ball gets damaged or misaligned. Having a replaceable lock bar insert means you can restore the locking geometry without needing to replace the entire frame or send the knife in for service. It's a sign of precision engineering and thoughtful design. Now, here's the downside. André didn't include any spare parts with this knife. That's something you often see with high-end models like the Snafu from Custom Knife Factory or a few other brands. Some makers include spare detent balls, screws, or even lock bar inserts. But, to be fair, not everyone does, and that's okay. I imagine if I ever needed one, it would be pretty easy to message André directly and have him send over the part. Now, let's talk about ergonomics. What can I say? This knife fits the hand perfectly. As you can see, it has well-defined finger grooves ideal for placing your index and middle fingers securely. On the opposite scale, there's a mirrored shape that adds to the overall grip and comfort. Access to the frame lock is smooth and comfortable as well. And there's a really nice little touch here. If you look closely, there's a low-relief texture on the lock bar cutout that resembles a sort of web-like pattern. It's subtle, but it actually helps your thumb catch the lock bar more securely when you're disengaging the blade. There's also some jimping on the flipper tab, those small ridges in raised and recessed pattern that give your finger extra traction. And honestly, it's very comfortable. There's no hot spot, no pressure point that feels sharp or annoying when holding or flipping the knife repeatedly. It's well designed for extended handling. One thing I'd honestly like to see improved in many knives is the flipper tab design. On some models, the tab sticks out too far and feels a bit pokey. It's not painful, it won't rip your finger open or anything, but it's not the most comfortable either. On this knife though, the tab is way more refined. It feels much better under the finger when you flip it. Let's take a closer look. The flipper tab angles downward, and when you press it, your finger slides naturally from top to bottom. It even acts as a bit of a guard once the blade is deployed, so your finger won't slip forward onto the edge. Now, about the choil, can see that it ends right here, marking the sharpening termination point. This knife isn't designed with an extended choil, which would let you choke up closer to the blade with your index finger. Some manufacturers make the choil large enough to use as a forward grip point, giving you extra control or leverage for detailed work, but in this case, not really. What you do get, however, is a handle with very defined grooves and cutouts to indicate exactly where your fingers should go. Even though the scales have a full satin finish which you'd think might feel slippery, ergonomics are surprisingly solid thanks to those carefully sculpted grip areas. That said, this is not the kind of knife you'd use for prolonged or heavy-duty work. It's more of a tactical or collector's piece meant to be appreciated, admired, and used with intention rather than for extended cutting sessions. Eventually, your hand might start to sweat, and when that happens, there's always the risk of slippage with smooth finishes like this. However, if you wear a pair of rubberized work gloves, I can guarantee this knife is not going anywhere. It locks into your grip solidly. The blade is perfectly stable when open, no wiggle, no play. The lockup is rock solid. And take a look at the centering dead center between the two titanium scales. This thing is well tuned right out of the pouch. Now, this isn't my first knife from ADV. I actually own another one that I'll be showing you in a future episode. That video won't be an unboxing, it'll be a full review because that knife is already part of my collection. But today was all about the unboxing. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've made it this far into the video, don't forget to give it a like. You already know we're constantly receiving new knives and revisiting some of the pieces in the collection. Not necessarily old, but definitely worthy of any collector's attention. That's it for today. The ADV Brawler says, thank you for watching, and all my monsters echo the sentiment. Ciao. As for me, I'm switching off the studio lights and wishing everyone a great week. See you next time on Philomania.